The Keep by F. Paul Wilson is one of my all-time favorite horror novels. It revolves around a group of German soldiers trapped in a castle up in the Remainen Mountains who become menaced by a vampiric-like creature. As characters are introduced and revelations are made, they realize they're under attack by a much more darker and much more malevolent creature than they ever could have imagined. Being a successful novel, it was, of course, adapted into a film by none other than Michael Mann. But The Keep was not made after all his other successful pictures. This is 1983 and is his second movie. And his adaptation of the novel, it fails completely. Michael Mann ditches the gothic horror tone and more for a fantasy element, and ditches the vampiric-like creature for a golem who kills his enemies by bursting them with energy and crisping them to their cores. Now, I will say, as an adaptation, as I've said just now, it is a failure. It fails entirely. But to judge the film upon its own merits, for what Michael Mann was trying to achieve, the fantasy does work. I do like it for that reason. Judging the film on its merits, I do enjoy it. The sets are beautiful and look straight out of the book pages of the Brothers Grimm. The cinematography by Alex Thompson is really nice. And the score by Tangerine Dream all coupled together to create an ethereal, otherworldly feel about this film. There's a dreamlike atmosphere that really cannot compare. It does make it slightly offbeat and slightly weird in this very otherworldly setting, yet at the same time you have realistic characters and realistic dialogue. It's a weird blend that somehow in this mishmash does sort of work. I had to say that. Now, the weakest element of this to me, judging the film on its own merits, is the golem creature. The creature effects are a bit weak. It's very obviously a guy in a big rubber suit, and there's not enough animatronic work in the jaws to give realistic speech. Nevertheless, I do enjoy The Keep. Once again, even though it is a failed adaptation, but as a film itself, I do enjoy it. The movie is I think the film is highly watchable, and as most of the cast is highly recognizable to a modern audience. Jürgen Prochnow from Das Boot does appear as one of the German soldiers, Gabriel Byrne as well, and even Sir Ian McKellen plays a Jewish professor brought there against his own will by the SS to get to the bottom of the mystery. And fun fact, this is 1983 Ian McKellen. Now he's playing a 70-year-old man, and they do have old age makeup on him. He looks exactly the same as he does now. Talk about realistic makeup effects looking into the future. But I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. The Keep is somewhat hard to find, but if you do find it, give yourself a watch, especially if you're a Michael Mann fan and consider yourself complete on his filmography. Watch The Keep to complete your viewing experience. And it's well worth a watch just for a slightly offbeat fantasy movie. And if you're not so much a fan of horror pictures, I would say give it a shot. There is some suspense, though it really doesn't work all that much. But the biggest thing I would have to say about this is a 1 hour and 40-minute version. There is a 3.5 hour film out there. Now, whether that was Michael Mann's initial assembly or his director's cut is somewhat unknown. But as Michael Mann has disowned the film apparently, I would have to hedge my bets that was his director's cut the studio took away from him. And I would love Paramount to release that version of the film, because it's obvious watching the film that there are chunks of the story, there's chunks of character development that are indeed missing from the film, and there are some behind the scenes stills that do show there is some missing material. I would love to see that at some point released to Blu-ray. As most of the participants are still around, it would be great to see a retrospective documentary to hear about it. Please, Michael Mann, put it out there. Please, Paramount, put it out there. But I need to stop plugging The Keep in terms of that respect. The Keep is well worth at least one watch for a slightly offbeat fantasy film, slightly offbeat gothic film, just slightly offbeat all the way around. But I do love it for that. Now, there are some more supernatural versus soldier films out there that I'll be certainly looking at later on down the line. I do enjoy those movies, and some of them are really, really good. And even though it's not out, I have to go on a slight tangent because I have to say I'm done with The Keep. It's a great film. You should watch it on its own merits, not as an adaptation. There's an upcoming film in development. Check it out on Facebook. It's called Panzer 88. Co-written and directed by Peter Briggs, who wrote the first Hellboy film. It revolves around a group of German soldiers who crew a King Tiger tank in 1944 who are retreating out of Russia. They pass through a village and pick up an SS officer, and soon afterwards find themselves menaced by a supernatural entity out for their destruction. The film's Facebook page has lots of concept art, lots of storyboards, and looks insanely good. I'm very excited about this film. I've been following it for over a year. And if it was already out, it will more than likely be reviewed on this show. And I have to say, check that out if you're a fan of Supernatural vs. Soldiers, or if I piqued your interest with The Keep. It's called Panzer 88. Check it out. But as for The Keep, it is hard to find. It is hard to get your hands on it, but it is at least worth one watch. All right, that's it for me. Have a good day, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. I was going to do another zombie film, but 2 zombie films in a row was about it. 3 in a row, that's a bit pushing it. But I do have lots of zombie films.